This is my favorite time of the season. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Everybody says that the NFL season's over, but I honestly don't feel that way. I kind of feel like this is the second leg of the NFL season in a sense. Like, I'm actually just as excited for free agency as I would be for an NFL Sunday.
That's a loser talk.
The draft.
That sounds like a Panther fan talking right there.
I mean, aren't you? Exactly. Wouldn't you know all about that?
I do.
Draft season, free agency, who you going to get.
Best time of the year.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's because everybody's 0-0 right now. You know, everybody's on an equal playing field.
Can't wait to go 5-12.
And the Chiefs just lost the Super Bowl. All the AFC teams have hope now, so that helps.
Patrick Mahomes got a haircut, dude. He's on revenge tour.
Did
this
he
year.
actually?
Yeah,
did you
I
not
saw
see
that.
No.
Like
my
trimmed it
God.
way down.
Let me see if I can
down.
pull it up real quick.
You know who's going to copy that?
Dylan Raiola.
Dude, he's got to be the
100%.
cringiest person I've ever seen. I don't care if he's 18, 19 years old. It's weird. It's really
I mean, but
weird.
if you were an 18, if you were going to emulate,
No.
if you were that old and you were going to emulate your game after any quarterback in the NFL, wouldn't you pick the best?
Emulating's fine, but also doing like the whole like finger thing, the frickin' jersey, the jump up. Oh, there it is. What the hell? Ew.
Dude, he's on his revenge tour.
Dude, it
He
looks
looks-
terrible. Was he at a funeral?
I don't know. His brothers are there probably diddling
He's got
some
them.
club
He's
owner.
got a little moves going on there.
Yeah, for
Bro
real.
needs to hit the gym.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really exciting time because, you know, we haven't hit free agency, we haven't hit the draft. Everything, you know, every team has every opportunity to get any player that they want right now, and I mean, not not every player, but realistically, you know, you've got those guys that you're signaling in on in free agency and signaling in on in the draft, and you know, I think when's free agency open? Less than a month, and then we've got the combine in what?
We got
3
the combine
weeks?
like next week.
Big news in Carolina today. Did you not see that?
What?
We re-signed Andy Dalton for 2 years.
I saw that.
2
yeah.
years? He got
The
2
red
year
rifle,
deal. That
baby.
dude,
Yeah,
hell
dude.
of a career for Andy Dalton. Shout
Yeah.
out to Andy Dalton.
Same draft
dude.
class as Cam. Still playing.
Damn, that's
Wow.
wild.
Crazy
I
to think
he
about,
was,
huh?
I think he was like a year at what draft class was that? 2011.
11.
Damn, good, great career. Shout out to Andy Dalton. We're in the Andy Dalton stand. QB1 for the Panthers next year. All right,
Don't
speaking
do
of
that
free
to
agent-
him, man. Come on. I got high hopes for the Thurs.
So free agency, we were just talking about it. So there's actually a lot of good free agents this year. And I know that people said the free agent class isn't that great. I don't think there's a lot of star-studded names, I would say. Like, there's not a ton of quarterbacks, not a ton of receivers. But there is some star players that could really help a team right now. So I want to get your guys' top 3 free agents going into the offseason. And you can base this off of priority, whether it be, you know, a quarterback like Sam Darnold, or it could be more like who would make the biggest impact to a team day one.
Yeah, I think the franchise tag window just opened today at 4 p.m. as well. So a lot of these are we don't know what's going to happen with these franchise tags essentially. So we're giving our predictions before there's been any tags put on or anything like that. In my opinion, the number one overall has got to be T. Higgins. If he does become a free agent, I mean, you're looking at, you know, top 15 wide receiver in football. I would say. I mean, you guys can argue against that, but I really, truly, when this guy's healthy and on the field, this guy is one of the best receivers in football. Best one-on-one guys that I've seen in a while. And I think whatever team gets him is getting a wide receiver one, pretty much plug and play, ready to go day one.
You think T. Higgins is automatically a wide receiver one?
I mean, depending on...
I don't think we've ever seen that. He's never on the field, number one. And number two, he's been playing with Jamar Chase for most of his career. So I have a lot of questions about T. Higgins being, like, the guy. Like, is he a guy you want to pay, like, top 5, I guess, wide receiver money to?
Well, that's what it's going to come down to, because you know he's going to want, what, 60, 65 guaranteed? Probably, like, 4 years, 120, 125. I mean, what are we looking at for a contract? That's what I'm thinking as far of a contract for him, which screams wide receiver one money. So wherever he goes, you're banking on him being that wide receiver one I think he's got the skill set to be there. You brought up the biggest question. Can he stay on the field? Can he stay healthy? If he can, then I think he does have the capability to be that, but that's a big if for sure.
Right. I just personally, I'm not a big fan of T. Higgins going into this offseason. I feel like some stupid team is going to sign T. Higgins to a massive contract, like the Carolina Panthers.
I love the Panthers.
I hope
Bring
they
him on
don't.
over, bro. Bring him over.
I hope they don't. It doesn't make any sense for a lot of teams because I don't think, number one, for those bad teams, he's not going to make the difference that you're hoping for from day one. And two, you can't rely on him to be on the field. So you're just wasting money away on potential, which I just don't see that as the number one free agent going into this offseason, personally.
I mean, it's a pretty weak wide receiver class, in my opinion, as far as
Very weak.
I also think wide receiver is – I think we're going to start seeing the wide receiver position kind of more devalue as time goes. And I think the only reason for that is because we saw – the Eagles just win the Super Bowl, and I understand they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, but they didn't win because of those guys. It was in the trenches. So I feel like teams are going to prioritize the trenches and defensive line and offensive line rather than a star wide receiver or maybe even the running back position. So,
I mean, we did just have two rookie wide receivers get over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like as a Panthers fan, if you told me, do I want T. Higgins or Tet at number 8 this year in the draft, I'd probably say Tet. But
for financial reasons.
Financial reasons, yeah. But I like T.
I think that's what I'm trying to say is it's more the financial risk with these wide receivers at some point, just because you see guys like Tyreek Hill already complaining. A.J. Brown put out that weird Instagram post after winning the Super Bowl. I mean, like most of them are diva, and I just think at some point, like you don't need them. Like the Chiefs haven't had a dominant number one wide receiver and won the Super Bowl in the past 3 years, except for Tyreek Hill back in 2019 or whenever it was. But they've done it. I mean, I would argue this has been Mahomes' best wide receiving corps over the past couple years, even without Rashee Rice, and they didn't win the Super Bowl.
I mean, as a Vikings fan, I don't know where the Vikings would be without Justin Jefferson, though. So, like, I think it comes down to the composition of the team as a whole. Like, if you're predicated on certain aspects, then, yeah, you're going to go to those certain aspects. But, like, the Chiefs realize we're secure in so many other facets that we don't really have to worry about the wide receiver position as much. Whereas the Vikings, it's like, you know, the line is solid. I think it's a very solid line. I think before Darisaw got hurt last year, it was one of the better lines in football. But, like, outside of that, you know, the quarterback position was definitely a question mark. The running back position was a question mark. I know Jones had a great year. Hawkinson was coming off an injury, so you really had to rely on that wide receiver position. I think, you know, the Ravens are an example as well, where you guys have been able to flourish without having that wide receiver one, or that big play wide receiver one. I know Zay Flowers has been there, but, like, do you really look at Zay as a dominant wide receiver one?
No. And I think the Ravens could win the Super Bowl without one. I don't think it's very needed. It depends on your offensive scheme too. Like, yeah, it all depends. I think now teams are just going to go more reliant on the run game, quick passing, and making sure they can protect their quarterback and get to the other quarterback. I think that is the way to win football games at this point, and I think we just saw it with the Eagles.
Which brings me to my probably the best at their position free agent this year. Kansas City Chiefs guard Trey Smith. I think he moves. Again, it is franchise. He is available to be tagged, but I think a guard needy team like the Bears would benefit heavily and would pay the money to bring someone like him in. The value is crazy for a young quarterback to have that offensive line in place, and we saw that this year with Bryce Young. I mean, we spent top dollar on our offensive line last year, and it paid dividends. Run game, we made Chuba Hubbard look like a top 6 back in the league. Bryce had time, so I could see him being moved, especially to your point about, like, you know, spend money where it matters, not necessarily on the flashy things. And I think that's one of those where, like, you sign a guard for, you know, a max contract, and your team's kind of boring. Is it really worth the money? But then, like, 100% is. So if the Chiefs don't tag him, which I'm not really sure, I don't think they had announced that they were going to as of when we started recording, but I think he'll be moved on.
Yeah, I think
questions in pass protection, but his run blocking was phenomenal this year. So.
Yeah, I think the Bears, anybody with a pulse, they'll take right now. And obviously, if you're going to get
true.
one of the best guards in football, you might as well spend the money there while you've got the quarterback on a rookie contract. So I totally agree with that. I had him as my second best free agent, just because of the need for so many teams to have that interior lineman, because we saw it with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It was one of the things I talked about. It was going to be the battle of the trenches. And I'm not talking about the tackles. I'm talking about the guards and the centers. And that proved to be the difference in that game, really and truly, was how the Eagles were just able to dominate the Chiefs' offensive line with that four-man rush. So, yeah, I totally agree with Trey Smith. I think he's the most desirable offensive lineman, in free agency.
Yeah. I actually have this might be surprising, and honestly, it's not biased because I personally would love him back.
Ronnie
But
Stanley?
the position is the most valuable on the offensive line. The left offensive tackle is the most, other than quarterback, is the most important position on the football field. Offensive tackle and quarterback. Can you protect the left side, the blind side, except for Michael Penix, of your quarterback? And like you guys said, teams who are very needy at the offensive line position, I guarantee, would take Ronnie Stanley, who just had a bounce-back year, who will not be as expensive as one of those top-tier tackles, who is great in pass protection. I guarantee that a team would love to have him, and I think I think he's going to have a huge market. And I don't think he comes back to Baltimore, because I think, like you guys mentioned, maybe the Bears. There's a ton of teams. I mean, the Raiders. There's a ton of teams who would take Ronnie Stanley right now and say, "Hey, we have our offensive tackle for the next 4 years." That's more important.
How old is he? Isn't he in his 30s?
Yeah, I think he's in his 30s. I would say
Like
probably
early 30s.
But who knows? Like, offensive tackles nowadays, they can go for a long time.
Didn't Jason Peters play till he was like 40? He's 30, by the way. He'll be 31
Trent
March
Williams.
18th.
Taylor Moton's 30, and he had like one of his best years this year.
Yeah. I think it's all more about technique when it comes to the offensive line, and if your body can just hold up at that point. And, these guys are on insane diets and insane workout regimens at this point. I just think, personally, like, I would hate to lose Ronnie Stanley, like, as a Ravens fan, but I just could not, like, taking bias out of it, I cannot sit there and see a top 10 offensive tackle in the NFL just be a free agent just randomly like that. So, I have Ronnie at 1, but I did have Trey Smith at 2 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ronnie Stanley, I was just reading some stuff about him, and, we know how good this guy is when he's on the field. And I think that's been his biggest bugaboo is can the guy stay healthy? And he's had some gruesome injuries, just some really unfortunate ones. But last year, he was 11th among offensive tackles with a 92.5% pass block win rate, which is great. And that's in the upper echelon of what you want to see from tackles. And, yeah, he's a guy that if you're going to sign him, he's going to be your anchor on your offensive line pretty much from the get-go. The age does, worry me a little bit, but like we've been discussing, I think offensive tackles have a little bit more longer of a lifespan than other positions in the NFL. Whether we're talking about running backs, receivers, whatever it might be. I think that tackles actually are able to withstand, which is crazy to think about because they probably take the most beating out of all the positions in football, but these guys can go to their mid 30s, upper 30s, and we've seen it before in the past. So yeah, I mean, I had Stanley at 4, but it's really close with me between 2 through 4, and I'll get to who I had at 3 in a minute. But yeah, I think it's going to be a home run signing no matter who gets him.
Yeah, I think whoever gets, I really truly believe, and the thing is, like, people are saying this is a very bad free agency, like, whatever, and I just disagree. I think there's so much talent on both sides of the football, on the inside, on the trenches.
This is a really good free agency if you don't need a quarterback or wide receiver. Like,
Yes.
if you're hungry at line, on either side of the line, defensive line, offensive line, or in the secondary, this is a perfect free agency class for you. There's a ton of talent to be added.
Yeah, and I think that's the toughest position at this point in the NFL to get consistently. It is so hard. Now, I'll just get my number 3 here because it goes with it. But Josh Sweat was my number 3.
That was my
number
All
2.
we did. I'm pretty sure it's all in our top 3. But
Yeah.
the two
After
positions,
the Super Bowl.
yeah, obviously. I mean, what do you have? 2.5 sacks, 3 sacks, whatever it was. Yeah, just being able to get after a quarterback, have pressure, and also protecting your quarterback. I really believe that there are, I guess, 3 things that you really need. You need the trenches, you need a good head coach, and you need a good quarterback, and you can win the Super Bowl. I think outside of that, I think you can find talent on the lower end and still be able to win without the flashy receiver or the flashy running back.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, go for it, Noah.
No, I was just going to say, like, Josh Sweat is, like, I know I joke, and we joke about, like, every free agent going to the Panthers or the Ravens, but, like, Josh Sweat is the one that I'm like, I actually really hope he lands in Carolina. We need that kind of pressure opposite of Derek Brown. And personal ranking, he's my number 1. But just for this draft class, I had him at, like, 2. So,
Yeah, I mean, I could see him teaming back up with his old DC and going out west to Arizona. I could see that being a really good fit for him. I mean, this is a guy that's not even 28 years old. He'll be 28 in a couple weeks in March. Super young, freak athlete. This was a guy I'm pretty sure coming out of high school was the number 1 recruit in the entire country, if you remember. I mean, this was a highly touted prospect and a guy that had flashes in college, dropped a little bit because of injuries in the draft, but has shown, what we saw in the Super Bowl was great, but then also even in the regular season, 8 sacks, 33 pressures. Really good stuff on a loaded defensive front, and to be able to still make a name and still stand out, I think just shows the full package that this guy's got. And I don't even know if he's hit his prime or his peak yet. Like, I think he's still getting there.
Yeah, I fully agree. So we're pretty much on the same wavelength of who we think our top 3 to 5 guys are. I really do. I'm more excited about this free agency than I would be with all the receivers. Now, that might be because I'm a Ravens fan, but at the same time, like, after seeing the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I'm like, I want to copy exactly what they did. Like, I don't want Lamar Jackson to get sacked once next year. But another, Tyler, you talked about it, was the franchise tag. We don't know who's going to get franchise tagged. It just opened at 4. There isn't supposed to be much, but there's one, and he's a key free agent that you just brought up, Tyler, is T. Higgins. And I actually was talking about this today, is that I think it's the stupidest move the Bengals could have done, is to franchise tag T. Higgins for a second year in a row. First of all, the franchise tag, being able to use it twice, is stupid in itself. And the fact that the NFLPA has not been able to bargain that yet is ridiculous, and it makes me feel like they really don't care about their players and how much money they get paid, because you lose out on so much money, especially like a player like T. Higgins. But the reason why I say that, and I'll let you guys tell me if I'm on the right track here, is I feel like the Bengals are just in a spot where Joe Burrow is going around New Orleans and saying, hey, you need to keep these guys. I'm serious. And it's kind of like a threat, like going around. And they're like, well, we don't want to pay T. Higgins because we can't afford to pay Higgins and Chase. I don't care what Burrow says. I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't make any sense.
Wait a minute. Why is Joe Burrow in New Orleans?
Well, for the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was last week during the Super Bowl. My bad.
Okay, I got you.
Probably should have explained that. But I don't know. Like, franchise tagging him, first of all, you're killing, $25 million of your cap space by doing that, number one. So all that free agency cap space that the Bengals do have that they could reallocate towards maybe Trey Hendrickson, towards maybe another pass rusher, a corner that they obviously need, Jamar Chase. Or if you want to extend both, then do it. Then extend Chase, extend Higgins, and forget what's going to happen down the line, like the Eagles are doing right now, and just say, we're going to backload these contracts, we're going to keep both of these guys, and we're going to have an unlimited amount of free agent money. I just think they're going to sit there, keep them on the franchise tag, and not change anything, and be like, well, we didn't have the money to spend, and they're the worst run organization in the NFL because they have the stars to do it, and they don't capitalize on it. That's why I think those bad teams are just bad. It's not like if they had Joe Burrow and all these other guys, Jamar Chase, I feel like they do a better job than what Cincinnati is doing right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Jacksonville might have an argument with all the young talent they had a couple
At least
years
they
back.
pay. I mean, at least they have the money to shell out. They gave Christian Kirk, which, looking back on it, Christian Kirk's contract was a steal.
Oh, yeah. It
was, really was.
My thing with the Bengals is you're not going to be able to keep all these guys. Let's be realistic. They're not going to. Between Hendrickson, Chase, and Higgins, you're not going to keep all three. I personally think if they do tag Higgins and they keep Higgins for this year, this is it. You're putting all your chips into this year. Because after this year, you're not going to if you're going to tag him, you're not going to re-sign him. I'm going to call their bluff right now. Like, they're not going to do it. I agree. With Jamar Chase's contract on the horizon, because that contract is going to completely reset the wide receiver market. So if you're going to sign Chase, and that's going to completely reset the market, Higgins isn't going to be that far off. I mean, he'll be, a little bit lower, but he's going to want probably similar money. I'm not going to say Chase money, but maybe just a tier below that.
I would say Devontae Smith money.
Yeah, but with the wide receiver market resetting, he's going to want a little bit more than that.
Is it really resetting, though? Because, I mean, Jefferson just got paid big money, and wasn't Chase's whole thing that he just wanted to make like $1 more than Jefferson or whatever?
Yeah, but that was going into
that was
last
before
year.
he got the Triple Crown, though.
You think it'll be even more?
I do.
I mean, what did Justin Jefferson get? He got $150. Is that what he got?
That. It was
Chase
monstrous.
would probably. I would imagine Chase gets at least $10 million.
4 years, 140. 110
Yeah,
guaranteed.
I would imagine Chase gets 150. That would be my guess.
But the other thing
is
is
stupid in my opinion. But I mean, Chase is great. But
you've also got Hendrickson as well, and this was the worst defense in football, or the second to worst defense in football. I know Hendrickson had a great year. Do not get me. Hendrickson had a great year. Don't get me wrong. We led the league in sacks, or was second in the league in sacks, I believe. What kind of contract is he going to demand? His contract's up after this year. Chase's contract's up after this year. And then if you're going to tag Higgins, that means he's going to be due for a contract next year. So you're going to have 3 of those contracts. I don't care what Joe Burrow is saying. Oh, I'm going to move money around. You can do whatever you need to do with my contract to make sure we keep these guys and sign these guys. You're not going to be able to do that much. There's no way you can.
I disagree. I think they
Especially when you have a
absolutely
guy
could.
But the Bengals won't. The Bengals will not do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's what Burrow's trying to say is you can, even if I don't touch my contract, but they won't.
Well, with Hendrickson, too, I mean,
Noah?
you're going to have Garrett. Miles Garrett's going to be traded soon and paid, and he's so you're gonna follow up Hendrickson the year after and pay whatever. I mean, Miles Garrett's probably going to get paid a bag by someone that sucks, like the Panthers or a team similar to that. So it's like, okay,
Patriots.
Now, and they got the money to spend.
Noah,
they got the money to spend.
By what you're telling me, you guys are getting Higgins?
No. I'm not saying. I wasn't saying.
Well,
Garrett's
who are the
coming to
Ravens
Panthers.
Higgins, Miles Garrett.
No. I'm just saying, like
Smith.
a team like the Panthers would pay whatever they needed to get Miles Garrett on their team.
Yeah,
like,
there are a lot of desperate teams.
And someone like
that
that'll pay that money. And so if Hendrickson has another year like he did this year, like you're paying whatever that is plus probably 10 because Hendrickson's 5 years younger than Garrett.
I mean, yeah, but another thing about Hendrickson is like, if I were the Bengals, I'd maybe try to move him because I know it's 17.5 sacks, but it was very inefficiently 17.5 sacks. Like, Hendrickson is not a dominant pass rusher like a Myles Garrett, like a TJ Watt.
Bro, you're getting one a game. I'm paying you top dollar.
Do you think there could be, this is a total hypothetical, but do you think there's a possibility that there could be, with picks involved, Micah Parsons for Hendrickson? Obviously, picks as well involved in that. Do you think that could be an opportunity? So
Dallas is giving up Micah Parsons and with Hendrickson and picks coming to them, is what you're saying?
Yeah. That would have to be at least the first round.
That's what I was
Trey
thinking.
Hendrickson. Not much more than that, though. That doesn't really make much sense for the Cowboys. I mean, it makes a ton of sense for the Bengals. You're upgrading and you're paying a guy who is more versatile and young, and I would say it's a different echelon of a guy like Micah Parsons than Trey Hendrickson. I know 17.5, but I mean, I think all of us can agree we're taking Parsons, Garrett, T.J. Watt. Like, I don't
Wait a minute.
see.
Let me interrupt you. Trey Hendrickson is 30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, he was a part of that draft class with Kamara.
God, dude, yeah, he's old as shit. I thought he was like 27 tops, bro.
No,
What
he
am I
was.
on?
What was it? Kamara, Ryan
Dude,
Ramczyk,
everything I said about Myles Garrett is wrong now. I thought Hendrickson
Lattimore.
was like. I thought Garrett was like 31. How old is Garrett? Like 29?
No, they're same age. I think he's 30.
Myles Garrett is 29.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. Sorry, I'd had to stop.
And Micah's
my bad.
24, 25.
Dude, yeah,
Micah's really young. Micah hasn't even had a second contract yet.
no.
So I do think Micah gets traded, but I don't think the Bengals make much sense.
So who would be a suitor then?
For Micah?
Yeah, like who would be a team that you would look at and it would be like, yep, that
The
makes
Rams.
sense.
Maybe the Rams, but they have Verse.
Yeah,
I would say you
And
could
Fisk.
pair them together. I said the Lions make the most sense for Micah Parsons because, one, the Lions don't have many draft picks this year. They have 6. So would you rather package up a ton of those picks and get a guy next to Aiden Hutchinson? And I know that you have to extend both of them, but the Lions can make it work if they want to. I mean, and you have to go after it because the Lions are not on the same tier as the Eagles. This would put them near them. And no matter what anybody says, I don't care if the Lions were fully healthy. I still think the Eagles win that game.
Yeah,
as
but-
much as Amon-Ra St. Brown wants to talk shit, as much as all of them want to talk shit, the Eagles were the best team in the league, and I just think having
would have been in
both of those
Detroit.
guys would make them dominant.
I think playing in Detroit would absolutely have had an effect in that game.
I just don't see Detroit being able to pay that much because I mean you're gonna have to pay Penei Sewell, who's
He's already paid.
yeah, but I'm saying like to keep
Yeah.
all these people on the team, you've got to pay him. You're gonna have to pay Laporta, right?
I wouldn't pay Laporta, but
I mean, I
Amon-Ra?
wouldn't either. You're gonna have to pay
Gibbs.
Amon-Ra. You're gonna have to pay Gibbs.
I think
So it's like at
Ryan
what-
Branch.
yeah,
at
but
what point-
think about it
Kirby.
like this. Think about it like
Jared
this.
Goff.
You can always extend these guys, backload the contracts, and trade them later, or eat the money later. It is what it is. Like, that's what teams are doing now to win Super Bowls up front, and that's what you have to do.
So why are you saying that about the Lions? Are you just saying that the Bengals are unwilling to do something like that?
Yes.
Like, why can't
Yes.
the Bengals keep all that talent if that's the
well,
argument?
the Bengals can, and I agree. It's
Okay.
just the fact, if you go back in the history of, like, the Bengals,
Yeah.
like, with their owner, they are the most cheap franchise in the NFL, and the reason why they won't do that, just to, like, give
They're the
context
Tampa Bay
is-
Rays of football.
Yeah, it ends up costing you more cash down the line because
Right.
you're paying void years, and they're not on the team,
so
you're
it's
paying
straight out
for
of the
somebody not-
owner's pocket
Yeah,
instead
pockets.
of the. Gotcha. Okay.
And
what
that's
you're
what
saying
the
now.
Eagles do. See, that's why the Eagles are so great because, and I said this last time, they shell
Yep.
out money up front and on the back end, and the owner's like, screw it, I'm a billionaire. Like, I'm just going to manipulate,
hate
just like
that.
the Dodgers are doing.
Yeah,
the
I hate
Dodgers
it.
are doing the same thing.
See,
I
Bad for
think
sports.
you do it.
Play by the rules.
Disagree.
Well, I guess those are the rules.
disagree.
That is the rules, though.
That's exactly.
You're within the rules.
Everybody
hate
wants
it.
to be pissed. Everybody wants to be pissed at the Dodgers right now, but I want to be more pissed at the
don't
other
start.
teams.
No.
No.
I'm
I'm not getting into baseball. I'm making
No,
the
no,
comparison.
I'm saying
that,
I'm
that
not
owners
getting
are
into the Dodgers argument because it's
Hey,
terrible for baseball. They should.
What I'm trying to say is that I do not blame that team. I blame the other teams because the other owners are that greedy that they're not willing to shell out their own money.
I
That's
agree,
what I'm trying
but
to
the
say.
Dodgers also have the most money, and they just signed like a massive, huge.
It's not
TV
on the owners.
contract.
I think it's on the MLB as an organization to do something about it. But we'll save that for a later conversation we have planned.
But yeah, I think I do think that Dallas, either way, where we think Mike is going to go, I definitely think he's going to get traded. I just don't think it makes any sense at this point to keep him if you're Dallas because you have. I just looked at their dude. They are $2 million already over the cap, and all they're paying is Dak,
And
Trayvon
CD.
Diggs, technically, and CeeDee Lamb. Like,
Because Zach Martin's a free agent this year.
yeah, they're going to be bad, man. And really
Dak
bad.
said that they're really close. Like in my opinion, I personally feel like the Cowboys are closer to the number one pick than they are at Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think
how I
you-
feel. I do not think this team is good. I mean, this is a stretch, but they could, depending on what happens in New York, they could finish 4th in that division next year, and I wouldn't be that surprised.
I wouldn't either. We'll get into it in a second, but I'm a big fan of the Giants. I think they're the worst team in the NFC East, the Cowboys. I get the trying to hype up your team, but there is no way that Dak is sitting. It's his fault. I mean, in reality, it's Jerry Jones and his fault. Like, the whole entire Dak situation ruined the Cowboys for the next 10 years because of the way they handled his contract both times. You knew that Dak was not the guy to win you a Super Bowl. It is what it is. Dak's a good player. But instead,
he's a glorified
Dak took
Kirk
contracts
Cousins.
that made it tougher. Huh?
He's a glorified Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I would say he's a better version of Kirk Cousins.
Glorified.
Which is not a bad thing. Like, I still think that's like a top 10. I would argue.
Dak's a
top 10
QB,
quarter. Yeah,
for
I would
sure.
agree. But Dak can't win with a $60 million contract that is almost fully guaranteed, like a Deshaun Watson. I mean, his contracts have been almost fully guaranteed every time, and it screws over the Cowboys because Dak played his cards right. Like, he did. He bet on himself every single time and got paid a stupid amount
He did
because
just
they were
enough.
scared.
He did just enough every single time because they tagged him, twice?
Yeah, I think once or twice, and then gave him almost a fully guaranteed contract and then did it again this past year.
Yep.
That's why they get ruined. It's Jerry Jones' fault. He should have signed him earlier, and it would have fixed the Cowboys for probably the past 5 years. They probably don't lose against Green Bay. Like, all that shit does not happen. I just think their team would be much better.
I mean, and you're talking about the cap space. I mean, they can't. They're handcuffed. They can't really do anything in free agency. And that's why we're talking about this situation. This is what it all cycles back to: is they're going to more than likely trade Micah Parsons because they can't keep him. And if they can't keep him, are you just going to let the guy walk, or are you going to try and get what you can for him now because you're not going to be able to sign him? Next year. When's his contract up? Is it next year? Next year or the year after?
He's on his 5th-year option.
Yeah, so you're going to lose him after this year no matter what. So you might as well get what you can for him now because you're not going to have the money to sign him because you're hampered by all these other contracts, and they're not expiring. That's the other thing, is it's not like, oh, okay, we get past this year, we'll be okay next year. Like, you're stuck with these contracts for a good amount of time. And the Trayvon Diggs contract, woof.
Yeah.
That is a terrible contract in its own.
I don't even care. I hope the Cowboys suck forever. I hate them.
Why?
Cowboys. As a Carolina fan, we have a ton of fans of other teams here because we're ass and we came around in '98. So there's a ton of just jort-wearing Cowboys fans every time there's a Cowboys.
Is it true
game.
they all wear jorts?
They all wear
Dude,
jorts.
it's so funny you mention that because my roommate from Denver, he's from Charlotte, hates the Cowboys. And he says the same thing. He's like, there's just random Cowboy fans
They're
all over Charlotte.
wearing, Modelo drinking pieces of shit. I hate them.
America's team.
I can't stand
Nothing
them, bro.
since '96. You
Freaking
guys,
hate
you guys haven't even been alive to see them in a championship game.
No.
That is
We've been
just
to a
crazy.
Super Bowl more recently than they have.
You've been to 2.
Yeah.
You both have.
They're ass.
I haven't.
Panthers
but
and
you guys
Ravens
have.
on top.
All
right.
Tyler, you might want to keep the suit.
Yeah.
You might not want to make fun of the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl.
Pipe down, bro.
All I said was you guys haven't seen it. I didn't make any jabs at them. I personally don't mind the Cowboys. The Cowboys are whatever. I know they ripped the Vikings off way back when with the Herschel Walker trade, but like really and truly, they haven't been relevant enough for me to dislike them. Like there isn't really that much animosity toward the Cowboys.
I don't have any animosity towards the like. I could care less. They're just like another team that like they try to force them down our throats, and I'm just sitting there like I really like. I don't even get mad when they talk about them. I'm like, okay, like they're just a bad football team.
Come down south for a little bit, dude. You'll hate the Cowboys. You go to any Walmart in North Carolina, there's tons of Dallas Cowboys gear. I hate it. I want to set it on fire.
I know you mentioned the Giants, Matt. I know you wanted to talk about them, so let's hop into it. Who do you guys look at? Do it. Who do you guys look at as the worst to first this upcoming year? I know this team didn't finish first place this year, the Commanders, but like who could be that team that goes from top 5 pick to in the championship, AFC or NFC championship?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, I think the team that's going to be the Commanders next year is the New York Giants. And I know people call me insane and like New York Giants fans say this every year, that this year, like, we're going to take the jump because they're a good organization, like, in the past, and they rely on that. But they have so many similarities as the Commanders, like, almost identical. They have $43 million in cap space. Now, the Commanders had a stupid amount of $78 million, but 43 is a lot. They have the 3rd overall pick. The Commanders had the 2nd overall pick. It's basically the same exact thing. And to me personally, I think this team has more talent on both sides of the football than the Commanders did last year going into this year. They have Malik Neighbors. They have Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think is going to be a star in the league. I think they have all the weapons and the defensive front. If they can get the quarterback right and do what the Commanders did and spend that money on the offensive line, just like the Panthers did too, get a young quarterback, you will have him set up with a good offensive line, great weapons, I would argue, and a decent defense with a good head coach. I think the Giants really do have a chance to make the playoffs next year and make some noise. I really do.
I mean, they are. They're basically. I would agree that they're a quarterback away from being very competitive.
Yeah.
I would absolutely say that. I think that, I do worry about the running game, but running backs, you can interchange them. And if you've got a good line, it's really and truly what can make a running back sometimes. And this is a loaded running back draft, by the way. There's some really good running backs in this draft that they could definitely target in the, maybe not even second, but probably even 3rd and 4th rounds. I have heard the rumblings and the rumors of a possibility of, maybe Matt Stafford going there. And I think that would make a lot of sense, at least for a couple of years. I don't think that they should go that route. What do you guys think? Where should they go at quarterback, I guess?
Dude, I don't even know. I'm just not big
That's
on really.
the question.
I'm not big on either guys in the draft this year.
Stafford's still a top 8 guy.
Yeah.
I would argue he's top 5. But he had to put somebody in that 5th spot. It's either him or Jalen at this point.
Nah, it's Stafford.
I get your hate. I get it, dude. But the point is, how many years does Stafford have? You watch him play,
3.
he looks old. He can still make plays, but he's still injury prone.
I think he's got to be in a controlled environment. He needs to be in a team that plays most of their games in the dome or in warm weather.
Yeah, and the cold, in New York.
Because you saw it.
The media doesn't.
You saw it in
sense.
that playoff game. He did not look very comfortable in that playoff game against Philly. Toward the end, he started to turn it on, but early on in that game, he did not look comfortable.
Well, you know who did play in the cold? Shedeur Sanders played in Colorado. I think that's the guy. I love Shedeur. I think that if you set him up correctly, he can be a good quarterback in this league. A great quarterback. But the problem is he can't go to a situation. I keep hearing the Browns getting Shedeur. And, if that happens, his career is going to go to shit. But New York, with all that cap space, with them weapons, he's not a mobile guy, so you need a really good offensive line for Shedeur. If he would have had a good offensive line in Colorado, he would have won the Heisman at least once.
I've heard the comparisons of Joe Burrow, and I do see some flashes of that. He's definitely smaller in stature, but I have seen some of those flashes.
I mean, he's truly the most accurate quarterback in this draft. He is.
I just don't see either of these guys. And, I'll be wrong, and that's fine. If either one of them are good, I can admit that. But personally, right now, I just don't see you dropping these guys on any team and them elevating that team right away. And that's mainly just because I'm over the whole, C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels. Those are kind of anomalies and not normal. It's very normal for a team to take 3 years for a rookie quarterback to really hit his stride. 2 if they really catch on fast.
What about Bo Nix? This quarterback class put up a lot of big expectations.
I love Bo Nix. I was a big Bo Nix fan all year.
Wait for JJ.
JJ too.
I think Bo Nix is definitely a product of a scheme that was friendly for a rookie quarterback, and I don't think that's a knock on Bo Nix. I think he was very decisive, and they created that scheme where it was kind of rookie QB friendly. But I don't think they were winning games and sleeping, 500 yards a game because Bo Nix was out there cooking up.
But you have Brian Dable with the Giants, though.
Yeah. I don't want to put that pressure on rookie quarterbacks. I don't think it's fair to them. Because it puts them under this lens of they had a disappointing season, and it's like, really, because we had no NFL whereabouts about these dudes. We had no idea how good they were going to be in the NFL. So it just kind of puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on them, and when really, like, their first year should just be like getting some miles on them. So I just don't. Now, if you're New York, are you willing to wait those 2 years, or are you trying to bring someone in like Stafford? I don't know.
Stafford's got 2 years left.
The other problem too is the owner of the Giants came out and said basically the GM and the head coach are on the very short leash at this point, and already the Giants GM, I'm blanking on his name.
Morrow?
Joe Shane.
Oh, I was thinking the owner.
He already whiffed. Multiple times on the offensive line. He didn't have a pick to take a quarterback. Like, I think he has to make a splash, whether that's Shedeur, Cam Ward, or Matt Stafford. I wouldn't be surprised, but the LA Rams would be, I think they'd be truly idiots to get rid of Stafford at this point. I think they are way too close. It's just, and I get the contract thing, but you got to make it work. Like, I'd make sure Matt is retired as a Ram for sure.
Who would you say, Noah, your worst to first next year?
It's really hard to say. For me, watching, like, it's easier for me to say in the NFC South because I watch all of those games intently. Like, honestly, I'm nervous about the Falcons. I know their cap space is kind of, it's not the best spot. I think they're like $2 million over cap right now, but we've seen with the Saints for so long that, like, you can kind of finagle it. It's finally catching up to the Saints and biting them in the ass, but, like, you can kind of delay that for a little bit. And I'm kind of like, there's not a better time to kind of allocate that money while you can and have a QB on a rookie contract, especially with the weapons they have around him. If they somehow find a way to get an edge rusher, whether it be in the draft or in free agency, like, I think they're a favorite, maybe not a favorite, but a dark horse favorite to win the NFC South and make a playoff run. I don't think they're close enough to win a Super Bowl, but they're one of those teams that maybe we see this year and it's like, oh, they've won 10 games, and, like, they weren't that good last year. Even though they won, 8 last year, no one saw the Falcons as, like, the Falcons and the Bucs were both
6-2 or 6-3 at one point in time.
Yeah, but everyone looked at NFC South teams as like they play in the NFC South. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're getting to see the Bucs, the Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. Those are your games.
Yeah, but when they signed Kirko, and obviously it didn't pan out with Kirk Cousins. Their odds went to, like,
they did
7th, 8th best in the football.
They did. But I saw stuff from Michael Penix that was like, oh man, like, I hope he doesn't pan out and we have to play him for the next 12 years.
I personally think this team is probably a year, maybe 2 years away. As much as I love the Panthers, I actually thought about taking them here. I'm going to go with the team that's got the most cap space available in football, and that's the Patriots. I think bringing in Vrabel, I think, is going to completely change the dynamic of that team. I love what I saw out of Drake May, and they got money to spend. And I would put that money in Robert Kraft's hands and say, here you go. Let's make something of this. And I just think that with that division, I think the Jets are completely in a rebuild. Like, they're starting from scratch is what I'm looking at with them. And then I'm looking at the Dolphins. What have the Dolphins really shown me? Get to the playoffs, lose. I don't know if that's going to completely bomb and blow up here in the next year. And the Bills, we know, are still going to be a staple, but I think the Patriots have got a lot of interesting pieces on both sides of the ball, and I think that they've got a chance to really add to that. And I think bringing in Vrabel, like I said, I still think they're probably a year or two away. But if I was going to pick a team in that top five picks outside, of the Giants was a good pick as well, Matt. And I love the Falcons too, but I like the direction of the Patriots right now.
I was thinking they were my probably second pick. The only thing that concerns me is the division they're in, as well as being in the AFC. Like, do you trust Drake May in 2 years to go against Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes? It's very early. He very well could, but that was the only reason I didn't pick them. And especially with this year, we talked about, like, teams that this is a really good draft or a free agency for teams that don't need wide receivers. They need a wide receiver really bad.
Hot take. Drake May will be a better quarterback in 2 years than Jalen Hurts.
Jesus Christ.
You heard it here.
Jalen Hurts is a top 6 or 7 guy. Leave him alone. He's proved it. Yeah, so I just that's the only reason I didn't pick them. I really like him. I really like Drake May. I like the coaching hire. I'm just like, I'm not picking anyone in the AFC.
Yeah, the AFC is definitely the toughest to turn anything around. I feel like it's always the NFC. Like, I always look at the AFC every single year, and I'm like, yeah, I can pretty much pick the top 5 teams. There might be, a little switch up in the wild card between the Broncos, LA Chargers, like those guys with like good quarterbacks, decent teams. But the NFC is like, good Lord, you never know what it's going to be every single year. That is the toughest conference to pick.
Although it feels like the last 7 years, it feels like it's just been the 49ers or the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, recently.
Which, as much parity as the NFC has, there's still just been those two. You had the 1 year of Brady, but like other than that, that's all it's been is those teams.
The thing with the AFC is there's like a juggernaut at the top of each division is what scares me.
Yeah.
That's tough
true.
with the AFC. Like, you have the Chiefs in a separate division, you have the Ravens in their own division, and then you have the Bills in their own division. Outside, I mean, the Texans, they're okay.
They're just going to win their division every year because the division's
You look at the NFC, and outside of the East and the North, it's kind of open. The NFC South with the Bucks, and then you have the Rams.
I would say the
and the
South
NFC West.
is both of the South divisions are. You're going to have a team that's 10-7 that's going to win those divisions.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, you could have the 49ers have a bounce back year this year and go 12-5, or maybe the Rams go 11-6 or 12-5, and I wouldn't be surprised. The Seahawks could still go that 10-7 or 11-6. But
to be fair, that could help the Patriots next year, though, because, I mean, you look at the NFC divisions that are good, they're stacked.
Yeah,
I mean,
the North, the East, and
you had 3 in the playoffs, so they kind of eat up some playoff spots. So maybe, even though they're playing the Bills, maybe they sneak in 9 wins next year. The Patriots do and get in or something like that.
That was my argument. Is I think that, like I said, I think next year still might be a little bit premature, but maybe the year after, I could definitely see them surpassing the Jets and the Dolphins.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Jets. That was another one but I've hurt myself with the Jets the last 2 years. I can't do it.
Get away.
Don't do it, Matt.
Glenn's
Don't do it.
got that vibe to him. Aaron Glenn's got
Don't do it, Matt.
Come on, dog.
This year I was fully in on the Jets. I was like, this is going to be the year.
So was
I
Matt.
did too, man.
Matt
I said
wanted
they were
to win the Super Bowl.
Bro, I had them
had
as the number 1 seed in the AFC.
My Super Bowl was Packers Jets. Aaron Rodgers versus former team. What a storyline that would have been, huh?
That would have been nice.
All right, moving on from
stink.
All right, moving on from that. Tyler, you put this in. You said Amon-Ra. I didn't see this, but apparently Amon-Ra St. Brown said that the Lions were the best pick against the Eagles on opening night. I'm sick of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I didn't even hear the clip, dude. He might be the most annoying receiver in the NFL. Oh, I can name every receiver picked before me in the draft. Oh, if we were healthy, we would have beat the Eagles. Oh, we would have been there. Like, I'm sick of his hypothetical bullshit. Like, I really am.
Fucking tell him, bro.
To me, the best overall pick is the Commanders. I'd much rather watch Jaden Danielson, Jared Goff. And it's a divisional matchup.
Well, and I think it's a rematch of the NFC Championship, which is the big headline there. I mean, you could also say the Rams would be a better pick because they do play the Rams in Philly this year. That could be a better pick because that's a rematch of a playoff game as well. Outside of that, it's the Rams, the Lions, and the Commanders. Outside of that, Cowboys, Giants, Bears, Broncos, Raiders. Nothing else really stands out to me. But I agree, Matt. I think the pick here is the Commanders. I think that Thursday, first Thursday in September, second Thursday, whatever it is, when they have opening night, the Eagles will be hosting the Commanders. I got to imagine that's going to be the game. Sorry, Amon-Ra, but
I say make it a throwaway game. The first 3 weeks of the
like
NFL
a homecoming.
suck. Yeah, no one knows who's good. No one knows what's going on. Teams are still finding their identity. Like, remember, what was it, 2 years ago when the Lions beat the Chiefs on opening night, and everyone was like, oh my God, the Chiefs are going to suck this year, and they only lost like one more game. Just make it a throwaway game. Save the good games for like middle to late season when playoff implications are in, and we know what teams are good and bad. That's my decision.
Well,
I think the Bears are on the schedule, right? Why not put the Bears on there? You get Caleb
I was thinking
Williams.
the Raiders, but yeah.
No way. No.
Well, that's just a homecoming.
That's way too throwaway.
I'll watch the Raiders if Tom Brady suits up and plays. That's it.
That game that you were talking about, Noah, you also remember Chris Jones and Kelsey were both out for the Chiefs for that game as well. Chris Jones was holding out. Kelsey was injured. But, yeah, I agree. I don't know why we try and make it this big-time marquee matchup the first game of the year. And it's crazy if you look back. The first game of the year last year featured the Chiefs, and the second game, which was a Friday in Brazil, which I hope we never do that again.
I disagree. I loved it.
Oh, that
more
field was
football,
in
more days
condition.
of the week. Give it to me.
Field was in terrible condition.
I wish they would have more Saturday football games.
I love Saturday football games.
Okay, but the one thing we definitely need to not do is Wednesday. That was bad.
Give me every day of the fucking week. I will watch an NFL football game, bro.
I agree.
Wednesday and Tuesday, it's just you get so convoluted with the rest of the schedules. And
Don't care. Dude, fuck players, fuck their health. Give me a game every single day. I will watch that shit all day.
Not fuck their health, but like fuck them because they make a shit ton of money to play football.
Owie,
So,
I'll say this.
Shut up, bitch.
Thursday,
well, CTE is a real thing.
I don't mind, Matt. I don't mind the Friday game, especially as the first game of the year. I just didn't like that it was in another country as the first game of the year. I just didn't like that, and I didn't like the field conditions.
I agree.
As
It would have been much better in
because
Philly.
America.
Would have been much better.
100%. You see what we did to Canada and hockey? Yeah, exactly.
Speaking
it's
of,
all about
remember
America.
when the Panthers got their ass whipped in the Super Bowl by the Broncos, and then I think we played them again the next year, Week 1, and then got our fucking asses whipped? Does anybody else remember that? I hate Week 1 games.
No,
Well,
I remember when
do
the
too.
Ravens.
The last time the Ravens did, Peyton Manning
threw
actually
7
did
touchdowns.
7 touchdowns, a record.
Week
yeah.
1 sucks.
Yeah, Week
I
1
remember
does
that
suck.
game.
And I've had bad experiences with like the Ravens and back. Either against Super Bowl champs or as Super Bowl champs. But I will say one more thing about this is I actually kind of hate the Lions now. Like, I'm starting to I think they're cocky bastards. Like, I really do. I think it's gotten too much. Like, it was a fun story, but now, like, saying
They're
you
still
were
the
going to win
Browns
if you
to
were
me.
healthy and, like, all the excuses and blah, blah, blah. Like, they seem lame.
Dude, they've been
honest.
so bad
it's so
for so many
funny
years, man.
To see the difference in like regions here, because like y'all up north, y'all are like, oh man, I love the Lions, bro. I'm like, yeah, we have no beef with y'all.
They're in the Vikings division, and
No,
I still
I
look at
understand.
them. I still look at them as like the Browns. Like they're always that little brother for like
What
the
have y'all
Vikings.
done?
They kind of
mean,
own you, bro.
We have like the 8th
That's
best
your
winning
dad.
percentage in football for like the past 20 years.
Oh my god, regular
just saying.
season
Percentages.
participation ass trophy, bro.
Yeah, he asked me if I would
Holy.
rather look at regular season or postseason, and I said regular season.
Let me ask you a question. Would you rather, if you had a choice, would you rather be the Lions or the Vikings right now?
Probably the Lions.
Okay.
I'd rather be
There's your
either
answer.
one.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying, all I'm saying is that I don't have the animosity toward the Lions like I do toward the Packers and the Bears.
That's fair.
Okay? Like,
That's-
I cannot stand the Bears. Like, going back
No
to
one
the
can.
Jay Cutler days, I cannot stand Chicago. And watching Jay Cutler puss out and not finish that NFC Championship game against the Packers
Bro.
is the biggest bitch move I've ever seen in all of
Jay
football.
Cutler was a dog.
He was.
I love me some Jay Cutler.
I
bro.
love Jay
cannot
Cutler
believe
now that he's not in the
I still
NFL.
remember that game.
But-
I can't
but-
believe he made an NFC title game smoking cigarettes.
And didn't
Elite.
finish the game. He said he was hurt, and he wasn't even hurt.
Elite.
And the Packers, I cannot stand the Packers. I will always hate the Packers, and I do not want to see Aaron Rodgers
Bro.
in purple and yellow next year. I cannot envision that, and I won't envision that.
Jay Cutler was
However-
going to smoke some cigs on the way to the game, throw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks,
Divorce
and
his
then
wife.
go bang a supermall that night. I mean, come on, dog.
Once he
Dog.
retired, I'm a fan of Jay Cutler. But when he was on the Bears, I could not stand the guy. Could not stand it
Fair.
because you're right. He would do all that, and it's just like, dude, fuck you. Like the fact that you can go out and do that, but then when push comes to shove and your season's on the line, nah, my knees hurt, man. I'm
Never
out.
had a 4,000
Like,
yards.
get
season
outta here.
there.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. But yeah, I don't have the animosity toward the Lions like I do anybody else in the division or a lot of other teams in the NFC. Let's name the Eagles. But yeah, that's and the Saints. I can't stand the Saints because of the bounty scandal. But all right, there was some talk I saw about Anthony Edwards. They asked him, "Would you want to be the face of the NBA?" And Anthony Edwards said, "Nah, I don't want to do that. Basically, I just want to come out here and play ball." My question
What
is,
a loser.
if Mahomes retire, because you guys would agree, Mahomes is the face of the NFL right now.
Yeah.
If he were to retire tomorrow, who is it?
I'll disagree just because I don't think the NFL really has a face.
Okay, then that's going to be the question: is who is the face of the NFL? Like, if you got to pick one,
I don't think the NFL needs a face. Like, I think there are teams that kind of fill that role. I don't know. And I think it's mainly because of, like, the NBA, there's always, in the playoffs, like, it's kind of reliant on how well your stars play. There's obviously some factors in, like, you know, how your bench is looking or, you know, how deep your team is. But, like, Jason Tatum got shit for not playing well. And, you know what I'm saying? So, like, for that reason, I think the NBA is much more geared towards, like, this is the dude. He's been the dude for so long. I just don't see that the NFL has that or really needs that. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion.
I see your point. It's more of a team game.
Yeah.
It's way different, but I do think Mahomes, like, if you had to pick one, like,
Yeah.
it's Mahomes. Like, I see the face of the NFL as the casual person who doesn't watch football, like, thinks of the NFL, and the first player they think of is that player. And usually that's Mahomes, and that might have to do with Taylor Swift or whatever it is, and the Chiefs. But yeah, I would say it's Mahomes. If it wasn't Mahomes, that's where it gets tough because.
Well,
I'm with you.
I mean,
I'm with you.
two-time MVP.
I know what you're gonna say. I'm with you, Matt. I agree.
I mean, if you look at accomplishments and like the way that he's kind of changed the game of football, like, and how like different of a specimen he's been, like take away like playoff non-success, like
kind
of
the
like
Curry
it would
role.
have to be Lamar, like. Because he's also a great guy, great role model, like guy you want on your team. You know what I'm saying? Like guy,
sneaky
guy
athletic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no.
Like I just feel
think
like he's different. Like
he is able to resonate with a lot of people in America. I think
Yeah, I agree.
how he like and his accomplishments, you know, they speak for his own. I understand he hasn't gotten to that big game, which is obviously the big black cloud that's over top of him right now. Outside of that, though, like you said, how he carries himself, how he talks to the media, you hear it from his teammates, you hear it from people in the public around the city, the charity work he does, everything in that regard. I do agree. I personally think it would be Lamar. And this is going to come back to a Lamar versus Josh Allen debate, maybe. But I think that it's one of those two as of right now. If it wasn't one of those two, maybe
Josh is
Saquon.
just in Buffalo. I think that's what kind of I don't think it's because Lamar's better than Josh. Like I don't think it's that. I think it's more of like. You kind of can't be the face of the NFL and be in Buffalo. Like,
well,
I just disagree. And I love Buffalo. I'm not shitting on Buffalo, but...
To add on to my point, I think it's more like... I just don't think the NFL is as popular as other major league sports in America across the world. Like, obviously Americans love the NFL, but, like, outside of that, we don't really have a presence. Like, not a lot of people keep up with it. Like, if you go to China and you say LeBron James and that's the only word you... Like, they will understand you. Like, they were like, oh, LeBron James, yes, NBA, yes. And it's the same, like, when we think soccer, I know nothing about soccer. Yep. I know who Messi is.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and Ronaldo,
I know who Ronaldo is. Same with baseball. Shohei.
Christian Pulisic, yeah.
Helps that he's from Japan. But, like, everyone knows who... You can go to other parts of the world and know who Shohei is. Like, the NFL just doesn't have that reach. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't feel like it does.
No, I agree. I don't think it's like that.
Yeah.
I think it's getting better, though. With them playing in different countries.
Yeah, the reason this all came about and why they asked Anthony Edwards is because you look at the landscape of the NBA. Giannis, Jokic, Luka, even SGA's Canadian. They don't have that. Like, who's they want the face of the NBA to be from America. And that's where they're really struggling to find that right now. And that's a big issue with the NBA.
One-time finals winner, finals MVP?
Jaylen Brown? You talking about Jaylen Brown, the real Finals MVP?
They brought up
Didn't he win
Tatum.
Finals MVP?
He won. No, Tatum won MVP. Brown won. Do I have to go back and look? I thought Brown won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
I think he won both.
Damn. Yeah, well, I was talking about Jaylen Brown.
Yep, yeah. Jaylen Brown did.
I was memeing about Jason Tatum anyways. Everyone hates that guy for some reason.
Okay, I was a fan. And then when he
then
did
the
that
Kobe
bullshit,
bullshit.
The Kobe, the fucking...
Oh, my God.
We did it! I was like, holy shit. Oh, my God.
What we're getting
yourself?
to is the NBA needs their players. The players need the NFL. I think is what it is.
Yeah.
The NFL can be fine without having that notable player, but I don't think the NBA can be fine without having the notable players.
I agree.
The NBA's not fine with LeBron as their face right now. They suck. So
yeah. I mean, I'm going to watch more. I think all the trades did help. That's a whole different conversation, but I'm going to watch more NBA because of all the trades.
Watch
happened.
NHL.
Watch
Please.
College. Yeah, NHL.
Yeah, I saw Maryland basketball's student section. Where were you at?
That's a conversation for another day. But
did you show up to the game?
I cannot say yes and I cannot say no.
Did y'all watch the Four Nations hockey game this past weekend?
I did watch
USA
that.
versus Canada.
I watched the first period.
Electric. There were 3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
I think that's how you fix the NBA All-Star game. You do
that's what I was going to ask about the Pro Bowl. Dude. Is how can the NFL take something?
They can't.
From
the
that?
NFL's too physical. It's impossible.
I know.
Dude, the
NHL.
NHL. Dude, I love the NFL. The NHL is as physical, if not more physical, than the NFL.
Yeah, but it's more.
Can you imagine if we broke it down?
The money involved with these players. Like,
what if we broke
NHL
it down on?
Gets $3 million.
What if we broke it down on teams based on regions of where they went to college? I don't know.
Like Florida, Texas. That's actually
where you had
back. Do high school.
Oh man, yeah.
Just do high school.
Well, you'd have an SEC team or an ACC team or a big, but then you'd have way too many SEC and Big Ten teams.
It's too lopsided.
Yeah,
it would be cool though.
I don't know. The last thing before we get into our where we're gonna pick our own team, if your team is in the Super Bowl, how much money would you need to allow? How much money would you need to take in to allow your favorite team to lose the Super Bowl? So essentially, just that one. I'm going to pay you X amount of money, but your team is going to lose. How much money would you say?
I've done it twice for free, dog. It wouldn't take much.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Abe. I thought about this question, and I was like, dude, it would take a lot of money, but I've also seen them win, and money, at this point, is, more important in my life. I mean, it wouldn't be some, $10K. It would probably be more of, if you gave me $25,000, I mean, I'd say yes. I think
Ravens
that's
would
my
lose
number.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Because I know they're well run. They'll get back in maybe 20 years.
For me, I don't know because I've never seen the Vikings in a Super Bowl. So it's I don't know if there's a monetary figure. I really don't. If you were hey, I'll give you
you're
$100. Bro. No, I'm dead.
$10 million
serious.
for the Vikings to lose the Super Bowl. You wouldn't take that shit? You're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, I would call you insane.
You're out of your mind. There's not a lot of shit I wouldn't do for $10 million.
I would do it. You wouldn't do it for $100K, Tyler? $100,000?
I don't know. Probably not.
Did you guys watch Beast Games?
Fuck no.
I don't think so.
It was so good.
Oh my.
You're insane. Never mind. I was going to make a reference towards Beast Games. All right, no,
I did not watch it.
Oh, I got you.
It's so good. Pull up. All right, last thing. We're going to play a little game. Noah brought this up.
We're going to play a whittle game.
A whittle game. You have $15 to spend. Pick your team. Here's the graphic.
Hold up. Shut up. How do I...
You were just doing it.
Zoom in.
You were fine.
Yeah, how do I zoom in?
You don't have to. Do you have stuff on your computer that we can't see?
Oh, here I
Type
go.
P for me. Okay. You have $15 to pick your lineup. Here's the graphic. Noah, I'll let you go first since you picked the graphic.
This was super duper easy for me, bro.
Okay.
I looked at this immediately. It was $3 Pat Mahomes. I'm taking that all day. I don't know who
why
wouldn't.
is he 3?
I don't, because they're stupid. I guess they're going off this year's season stats or whatever. Doesn't matter. If you don't take Patrick Mahomes for $3, you're stupid. Bijan Robinson for $1. What's that put me at? 4? I'm going Chase and Jefferson. I'm spending big on wideouts, and I'm taking Laporta. Easy. That's easy money.
Yeah, that is I'm debating on the Joe Burrow $1 and spending the rest on just weapons around Joe.
That's what I had. I had Burrow, Bijan, Chase, Jefferson, and then that would be, and then I think it was Kittle. Yeah, it was my tight end.
I would probably go Burrow, Bijan, just because all those running backs, they're great, but
they're all kind of in the same tier.
Yes,
honestly.
exactly. That's
I
how
would
I
take
felt.
the same thing. I would take Chase, Jefferson, and probably how much does that leave you?
Chase, Jefferson, Burrow, Bijan, you're at $12.
So I have $3, so I'd have
Kittle.
to take Kittle, which is
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I also thought about doing Burrow, Bijan, CD, Jettis, and Bowers, and I'd still have an extra $1.
What are you
Yeah,
doing with that dollar?
Yeah, Noah, you made the obvious pick Mahomes. I think Burrow is the play. I mean, the fact that Burrow's $1 and Jalen Hurts is $2 is insane.
How big is the gap between Laporta and Kittle?
Not very much. No. It is very much. I would say Kittle is on another tier than.
How big is the gap between Burrow and Mahomes?
I don't
think
know.
it's like I don't think it. That's a good question. I don't.
He's
think
the only
it's
person to
that
beat
insane.
Mahomes at home in the playoffs.
I
So
think those
listen.
top
If you're saying
four
that's not
guys-
insane, then you're saying Lamar and Josh Allen are even closer to Mahomes than that.
I would say all of those guys except for Hurts are really close. Which is, I'm not trying to shit on Hurts, but he is
Yeah.
not in that echelon.
No,
turned
Like
the
the
corner.
big four. Those are the big four. Like you can pick any of them.
He
and it's
deserves to be on
okay.
this graphic. He should have been the $1.
I agree. He should
Yeah.
have been the $1, but they didn't want to disrespect him because he won
just
the
won a
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
And
Yeah.
but they would have got more engagement.
You know what I thought to be crazy? How about Drake London and Ladd McConkey over AJ Brown?
Yeah, where is AJ Brown?
To be
He's not
fair,
on there.
to be fair though, like, and this is the reason I think Hurts should be $1. Like, the Eagles could have had someone in like the $3 range across the board.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they could,
also
Yeah.
they could have had a $3 receiver, two $3 receivers, and a $3 tight end. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, I think you really can't go wrong here. As long as you don't go like Allen or Lamar, which would be stupid in itself because you're not getting good value.
I'm just
And
mad
that's-
at
Although I would
McConkey over Jalen
salivate.
Coker.
I would salivate at the idea of like Lamar and Bijan in the backfield. Oh, that'd be fire.
Derrick Henry's better.
I know, but just from like an elusive standpoint.
I think Bijan's overrated as shit though. Like I
I think he's better than Josh Jacobs. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I disagree.
I agree.
That's a whole nother conversation. All right, that'll end it for today. Great conversation. I guess we'll have the combine next week. I think the combine is next week,
Let me get a look.
which is insane. It all comes very fast, and then
Yeah,
2 weeks after that we have
next
free
Thursday.
agency. And maybe next week we can start talking draft stuff and get some projections.
Mocks.
I need to watch some college film, which I don't even know where to get it. If anybody knows where to get college all 22 film that is not stupid expensive, please let me know. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.